Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, musicians, and comedians that perform here and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what makes our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Don Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers, and welcome to another fun episode where we dive deep into the world of craft brewing and discover the fascinating stories behind some of the finest brews around town. Today, we're delighted to have a very special guest joining us from Brothers Craft Brewing in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Meet Josh Harold, the brilliant taproom manager of Brothers Craft Brewing. With a passion for creating exceptional brews and a key understanding of the craft beer culture, Josh has been an integral part of this renowned brewery, captivating the hearts of beer enthusiasts far and wide. Join us as we explore the intriguing journey of Brothers Craft Brewing, the art of crafting extraordinary beers, and gain insight into the vision and expertise that make this brewery a standout in the industry. So without further ado, let's raise our glasses and welcome Josh Harold to the podcast. Welcome to the show, Josh. It's great to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Don. Glad to be here.
We did actually raise our glasses. It's so exciting because we're recording in the tap room today. Have you ever done that before here, Josh?
This is the first podcast we've had in our tap room, so glad it's this one here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we'll have today.
Yeah, me too. We were, setting up, and I was getting so excited about recording this, and I have to just think we need to start out having the Laughers learn a little bit more about you and your background in the craft beer industry and how you became the tap room manager at Brothers Craft Brewing. Because in that exchange before we pressed record, you were telling me that you were a theater major with a minor in music. So, Josh, how did we get here?
Kind of a funny story. I was born and raised in Rockingham County, right outside of Dayton. Very much a blue-collar, working-class family. And whereas my brother took more of the vocational side in his path with hunting, fishing, and eventually going into forestry and finding himself then here in the city as the green space manager and then a certified arborist, I was definitely more the arts kid. I remember in fifth grade thinking I wanted to be a children's book author and trying to write a book. And at some point in that period, I said something that triggered my mom, who was very supportive of me being in the arts, to basically audition for a play. It was with the Valley Playhouse. The production was 12 Dancing Princesses. And in sixth grade, I get a small role and had my first role in theater. And I found I really liked it. And as I went through middle school and high school, continued to pursue the arts. Theater was my main focus, especially in high school. We had a nice budding theater focus going on there, both through forensics, public speaking aspect, and one-act plays and things like that. And so, as I was going through high school, I thought this is something I definitely would like to pursue outside of high school. And, in the mid-90s, early mid-90s, there was that huge push to go to college for what you enjoy doing. There will be a job out there. I know kids still hear that today, but, for a working class family where my parents didn't get to go to college and my brother decided community college, me looking at a 4-year arts degree, my mom pushed for it and I went for it, and JMU happened to be the department and area that I wanted to be. I didn't intend on sticking in the area, but the School of Theater and Dance over there really appealed to me, and I really enjoyed my 4 years. The catch to all that was, about the third semester in as a declared theater major and having taken a bunch of theater courses, I got the statistics drilled into my head by my professors. If you're going to make a career out of this is what it would look like. Mm-hmm. And I realized it was more of a passion than a career choice for me. To rewind a little bit, at 15, I started working first in the poultry houses with a local farmer and then moved right into food industry. And, from 16 on through graduating JMU, I was working restaurants all around the area and really kind of solidified my love for the culinary arts. I'd gotten into the culinary arts as a kid, just out of curiosity, my dad teaching me to cook certain things. And then, on snow days as a high schooler, finding a cookbook and making something just because my curiosity and my love for food. Okay. And, later my love for food and beverage. So, with my restaurant experience, I've done everything with starting with dishwashing and hosting through serving, bartending, even co-general managing. The last place I worked during this part of my life was Luigi's Downtown, to give a little shout out there. And I really appreciated your podcast with Paul Summer and the evolution of the Blue Mouse of the Pony, because I was downtown during that time period and really enjoyed that. But, you know, in my mid-20s, it became a question, is this what I'm set to do the rest of my life? I wasn't looking at owning a restaurant, didn't have those types of means. The food industry is what it is. And so I made a dramatic choice in life to go back to school. At the time, JMU had a program, a post-bachelorette program, and I had a Bachelor of Arts degree, to become certified as a teacher. You know, after all these years of trying to make theater work, I got a music industry minor while I was at JMU, thinking maybe that would provide me with job outlets coming out of college, and I even applied for Clear Channel Radio and 98 Rock and never got an interview. I said, you know, I can't keep doing restaurants. Let me do this education thing. My mom never got to go to college, always wanted to be a teacher. I had interest in it, and I went through JMU's program and came out with a pre-K through 6 licensure, which I still hold to this day. Spent 4 years at Harrisonburg High School.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Teaching remedial reading. And then during that time period, I was working on my master's as a reading specialist. So I was like, you know what, I need to get back down into the trenches, and transferred then to Spotswood Elementary School and worked there 4 years, and thought that teaching was my calling. It kind of brought everything together for me. The theater major aspect and the theater background linked so well to the classroom, with my lesson plans being my script, if you will, my classroom being my stage, the ability to improv and pivot on a dime, all those things. The music, you know, aspect of it, I was bringing into my classroom by having background music. When I was doing my reading specialist master's, my action research project was on the effects of background music to the language vocabulary acquisition to lower income students and ESL and poverty students. Kind of using the Mozart effect, if you're familiar with those studies back from the late 90s. Using background music help kids learn, especially with helping their behaviors and things like that. Because I was in a very needy classroom with a lot of behavioral issues. And so it kind of all came together. And as life does, you get curveballs in life you're not expecting. And some of those set you on a different career path. And so I guess it was February of 2016. I was going through a rough patch in my life in my early to mid 30s and had some health issues going on. That caused me to basically have to go off on sick leave from my position. Essentially, in 2016, I went on spring break and I never came back. And it was a great partnership between my physician, myself, and the city of Harrisonburg to work this out, where I had enough sick days banked that I could, you know, use them to get through the end of the school year, not knowing if I was going to be in a position to come back in August. You know, basically resigning my position, knowing that if I was ready, I wouldn't be coming back to my classroom, maybe not even my school, but I was going to be welcomed back. And if not, then I could take extra time off and, you know, be flexible about making sure to get myself where I needed to be. And at that point, I was a well-established regular here. I'd kind of made this my second home.
Really?
I had already jumped into craft beer a lot, especially working in restaurants and then downtown in the early to mid 2000s when craft beer really started hitting downtown. Working at Luigi's, I watched the build out of Billy Jack's every day while at work.
That's amazing.
Thinking, man, that's Duke's Card Shop. They're putting a restaurant in there. That's never going to work, right? They're never going to have enough turnover, right?
That's very funny.
Which is funny in retrospect, thinking about all the Jack Browns up and down the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
And then when it did so well that they opened Billy Jack's, and, you know, the whole build out from it was a hair school before it was Billy Jack's.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, you know, when that closed down and Aaron ended up getting that and building out Billy Jack's and watching that empire grow, and those first 3 or 4 years especially, Billy Jack's was doing tap takeovers and, you know, steel pints like a couple times a month. It felt like every week, every other week. And they were bringing in all the biggest players, Sierra Nevada, you know, Stone, all these big players in craft beer at a time when Harrisonburg was getting into craft beer. The movement was blowing up. And, you know, so in 2012, when the word got out that Brothers Craft Brewing, well, Three Brothers was going to be opening the old Coca-Cola bottling factory that we sit in today, I was like, to me, it was like, I don't care if the beer is not that great. I'm going to support this because that means Harrisonburg has a production brewery. That's awesome. It got me really excited. I've been excited about Calhoun's that later became Callie's, but they were a smaller operation, a brew pub. It didn't quite fit my field. So I liked going in there, but it just wasn't my place. And I was like, you know what, a brewery taproom, that sounds great. And I walked in here in December 2012 at the soft open and fell in love with the place. And since I worked just a couple minutes away at Spotswood Elementary, this was my, after a hard day, come by, stop by, have a few beers. In the early days, the brothers were, brewing beer and doing the business end during the day, and then bartending, for a couple hours in the evening so the public could come in during that soft open period and try out the beer. So I got to know the brothers and the employees, and this just kind of became that second home, especially as I was dealing with some stuff in my life. Everybody needs a place to go, and there's a lot on your mind. Just to step away, step out of your own head for a little bit, and just kind of became that home and family for me. So to fast forward back to 2016, here I am thinking, okay, it's March. I don't know if I'm going to have a paycheck after August, because I know Harrisonburg City is letting me finish out my contract, so the last teacher paycheck will come in August. I don't know that I'll be able to go back to work as a teacher then. And there's this taproom manager position open at the brewery. And thinking back through all my experiences in a restaurant, everything from washing dishes and hosting to serving to bartending to co-general managing, I said, you know what? And knowing the brothers and loving it here, I said, you know what, let me go talk to them and see if they would have any interest. And at very, very least, be a short-term fix until I can get my life back to where it needs to be health-wise, take a year off from teaching perhaps, and then eventually go back to the classroom. That was 7 years ago. And I haven't found a reason to go back to the classroom since. So, that's the long and the short of how I went from a theater major with a music industry minor through over 10 years in restaurants to 8 years as a teacher to now 7 years as a taproom manager here at Brothers Craft Brewing.
That's a rich life, though.
Yeah. It's provided a lot of different experiences and has really rounded me out. And now, even more so than in the classroom, all of my previous education experiences, all those tools that I've built over a lifetime of working since the age of 15 to now I'm going to be 43 in August, it's all kind of really come together in this position, because as taproom manager here, if it's happening here at the taproom, it's my responsibility. Everything from booking live music to the open night comedy night that we'll have tonight. We have monthly on the third Thursday that you do so great at, you and your husband, and all the great comedians that come out every month for it, and that budding, growing population of comics that you've helped develop through X2 and Travis through the open mic comedy and the other resources here in the area. All that kind of stuff, to staffing and day-to-day operations to help building events. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but the community connection that we have as a business with local nonprofits, fundraising, trying to be a little bit of everything to everyone here in the area, and providing a place that everybody can feel like they're home and their family. It's been a really rewarding experience over the last 7 years, and which is why I don't leave this and go back to the classroom. I mean, there's also that thing about public education right now, but we won't get into that.
That's not this podcast.
Yes, that's a whole different conversation.
Whole different animal. That would be a good guest to have on, so we would talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Locally. But we're here to talk about the Brothers Craft Brew, and I think it's really great. Yeah, you do have those events. There's the comedy open mic once a month. That's ran by one of X2's basement comics.
Yeah, you told me about that whole group. Yes, great group.
It is. It's a new group, right? Really, relatively speaking. So a little over a year ago, my husband and I just brought a small group of funny people together that either were new to stand up or we knew they could do it, and help workshop new material with them and ourselves in our basement in my husband's man cave. And that's why they're called the Basement Comics.
There you go. That's such a great resource for you guys as a group. And, taking it a step further than what Travis does with this open mic, to allow you guys to take that rough work that you're doing in the basement and bring it out here in front of people and really think through it, or really just get your set down. So when you're doing these other gigs that are, pay gigs, people are paying to see you gigs, you're ready to roll. And that's such a valuable resource here in the area. And, talking to Travis, and even before Travis took it over, pre-pandemic, when another guy, Christopher, was doing knowing all the different people coming from around the state for these shows, because it was such a valuable resource for comics, because there are so few opportunities around, and they're growing. And it's because of people like yourself that are really pounding the pavement, getting the word out, and producing such a great product that people keep coming back.
That's right. And we want to help the local funny people who are interested in stand-up be able to pursue it if they want to, and creating more opportunities helps them do that. So
I think about all the people I've seen do stand up for their first time here on our stage, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's a very supportive environment too.
Yes.
For the first time, everybody's rooting for you.
Yep, that's it. We're gonna laugh at you regardless.
I know. Sometimes people go out and do their first open mic, and it's great, and then you'll hear even the best in the business talk about their first open mic, and it was a complete disaster.
Sure.
So, and everything in between.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about your beers here. You have an impressive lineup of beers. Can you share with us some of your personal favorites and what makes them stand out?
Sure thing. The one thing I've always loved about this business and this company especially is the variety. Like I was saying earlier, I took to the culinary arts early in life, in my teenage years, learning how to cook for myself, because I enjoy food and beverage. I love strong flavors. I love food experiences. And, thinking about my drinking journey, obviously in the 90s as a teenager, having my first beers, and then through college, trying to experiment around with other things. And at that time, outside of Sierra Nevada, you had your imports. So if you weren't drinking the domestics, you were drinking Beck's or, Killian's Irish Red or these other things. And they were different. And that really piqued my interest. So when this craft beer industry blew up, it became a paradise. Especially starting in 2012, when legislation was passed in Richmond to allow you to drink on site in a production-based brewery without it having to be a restaurant. And that's where things blew up. The funny thing about our story is, when we were building out this space, we never intended for there to be a tap room that you could drink in, because the law hadn't passed. This space that we used to call our private room that we're currently sitting in, that we have our stage in, this was going to be the original retail space where you could walk in, buy a six-pack, and walk out.
Really?
And back during that time period, the wine industry, funny enough, and I know you call yourself the funny wine mom, so you'd be interested in this piece. The Virginia wine industry had blown up, and the amount of tourism it was bringing into the state allowed for legislators to be convinced it was okay to pass a law to allow people to have a glass of wine in a winery. The idea is, post-prohibition, laws were put in place where legally you're not supposed to get drunk in the state of Virginia. And a part of that is you have to sell X amount of food per month for beer. Or, if you have liquor, it's a certain percentage. So people aren't getting drunk. They can go enjoy a beverage with their meal, but they're not there to get drunk, which is where you can't really have just a bar in Virginia. And that's kind of what the craft beer industry first started out with as a huge hang up here in Virginia, was we can do these production breweries, we can put the beer out into the market, but people will only be able to come in, buy a six-pack, and leave. And the wine industry, already dealing with that, said, you know what, if we have people come in, they hang out at our vineyards, they walk through them, they're having glasses of wine, we're turning more sales and revenues through taxation to the state. The state said, you know what, this is a massive industry, it's bringing in a bunch of tourism for us, yes, let's do it. So craft beer is like, yeah, let's do it. And so during the build outs, that got passed, and the brothers quickly pivoted and then created our tap room. Funny aside, if you're ever down in Norfolk, you can go to Smart Mouth. And they're as old as we are. They celebrated their 10-year a couple months before we did. Their tap room is kind of awkwardly shaped.
Really?
And it's for that reason. They were in that same position, but they had already built out enough of their production space that they couldn't pivot to create a larger tap room. So their tap room's smaller than ours. So it was kind of triangular. It's kind of a very unique space, because they had to do what they had to do when the law passed to keep things going forward. And it's kind of interesting for those of us that are 10 years in or more, because, as of 2013, things really started picking up speed very quickly. And by 2016, when I started in this position, you had how many breweries across the state already. And this is, before all this happened in Harrisonburg. We were the first production-based brewery here in Harrisonburg, and then Pale Fire came in a couple of years later. And then now we have, of course, Restless Moons. It used to be Wolf Street. And of course, we have the Friendly Fermenter, Three Notch. Their satellite location has been there. I think they came in shortly after Pale Fire. And then you go out towards Macedon, you have Cape Hill, you have Brouhaha, you have Elkton Brewing.
Yes.
It's funny with the Beer Works Trail, they've had to modify it over the years because you used to be able to get your full passport stamp here in the area. And that's one of the reasons they put that, we have 3 zones thing in. So you actually go outside of Harrisonburg down to Stanton or Lexington area to see some of the other breweries as well, because it was way too easy to get your shirt just with us. But that's kind of what got me into this whole thing. And the thing I've always appreciated about the brothers is their sensibilities about craft beer. Like restaurants, you have different business models for different breweries. Right. And their business model has always been, since, their story is of 3 brothers who in childhood envisioned one day owning a business together and coming to work together every day and having a family-run owned business, right? Yeah. That they would make that business feel like a family. So our business model has always been very open and welcoming, wanting a flavor for every palate. So having a tap list up there that anybody that walks in, from the guy that says, "Hey, I drink Pabst Blue Ribbon, what do you got for me?" Yeah. To the big craft beer aficionado, we try to have something on that will at least be something you enjoy when you're here. And I've always appreciated about us, because there's always new, fun, exciting things up there. Kind of like going to different restaurants and being a foodie. When you come in and try any of our beers on tap, and typically we have up to 14, you're going to see a variety of styles, Love Commonwealth Brewing. They do a great brew down in the Virginia Beach area, but you walk in Commonwealth, you see 14 IPAs and double IPAs because that's their deal. A lot of breweries will focus on one style or a couple specific styles. Some breweries stick to what they brew best all year long. Pale Fire does a very good job of having that consistent rotation of beers. You always know what's going to be there. And we're somewhere in between. Because on the other side of that, Sean Gatesman being a nano brewery with the Friendly Fermenter, you never know what's going to be on it because it's going so quickly in 5-gallon batches, and he's constantly trying new things. So that's the great thing about this industry, and especially here in Harrisonburg with all of our different breweries. We see all the different styles of breweries really here locally between Harrisonburg and Rockingham County, that if you're a consistency person, you got your places to go. If you're a small batch experimental person, you got your places to go. If you're more into the German lager style, you got your places to go. Jeff Moon does a great job with that. Yes, he does. So kind of like our food district here in Harrisonburg, there's so much good beer flowing in the area, which is so incredible because, I think back to the early 2000s, mid-2000s when I was working downtown at Luigi's, and there were only a handful of places. It was us. It was Dave Staverna, Finnegan's, the Dodger, and the Blue Nile. And again, really appreciated hearing Paul and his story with the Nile. And that was it. And now you look at the great community we have downtown, just downtown of food and beverage that, HDR has all, they help build that. Thinking back to the beginning of the early 2000s, and Eddie Bomball, and his first initiative was make parking free again downtown, and people will come. And then helping people get historical grants. So that Aaron Ludwig's of the world said, "Hey, I want to open up a restaurant." And now we have Jacktown, and that whole awesome experience, and all the different things. And I think about, that time frame being in my 20s and seeing people like Lauren Penrod, open Midtown Market, and then the Bottle Shop, and then now Lola's. And these were all people that came to JMU and said, "You know what, this area is awesome, and I want to make it awesomer." And so HDR helped with that. Now we have such a great, food and beverage area in such a small downtown. And it's a great place to come.
It really is. It's very vibrant, and it seems to be getting more vibrant all the time. Lappers, if you're not familiar with our area, and this is your first podcast episode, Jacktown is 3 restaurants. The original was Jack Brown's, and then the second restaurant was Billy Jack's, and then the third one is in the middle of those 2, and it's called the Middle Bar.
There is actually a third one that is upstairs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and this was a cool concept because they had their burger shack and their wing shack. They wanted to do a speakeasy.
Yes.
And The Hideaway.
That's it.
The Hideaway. And I remember when they first opened up, the only way you knew they were open is because they had a very, very limited Facebook presence intentionally.
Yeah.
And there was a light over this door on the side of the building that they're in. And when the light was on, you had to knock. And then somebody would open it up like the old speakeasies of the Prohibition era.
Fun.
And you walk up the stairs and you walk down the hallway. You're like, where in the world am I going? And you walk into this really cool space, craft cocktails, very Prohibition style feel. And I remember the first time I went in there, I noticed on the bottom of the receipt, it says, tell your friends, but only your closest friends, because it's that hush-hush type of feel to it. Yeah. So, Hideaway. And then the middle bar is kind of an extension then of Jack Brown's, really.
Right.
That, I don't know if you know the story behind that, but during the pandemic, and you couldn't eat inside,
That's right.
Aaron had to pivot. So he took that whole parking lot and paid rent on it and had all outdoor seating to keep things going with Jack Brown's and Billy Jack's. And so then post-pandemic, that worked out so well and expanded his seating that he wanted to keep it, but then had the option to get the space in between Jack Brown's and Billy Jack's, which used to be called Laughing Dog. They were screen printer place.
That's right.
And so that's where instead of doing the parking lot scene, you have a lot stable ability to extend out your seating with the middle bar there offering Jack Brown's food, but a whole different experience in there. And he's done such a great job in creating three very consistent but different experiences between, or I guess four really, between Jack Brown's, middle bar, Billy Jack's, and the Hideaway.
That's why they call it Jacktown, because it's all right next to each other.
Yeah. And Jack Brown's up and down the East Coast. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. That story's amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to get him out on here.
I was about to say, that'll be a great conversation.
That'd be an incredible conversation. You have alluded to this. You are known for your innovative spirit. What are some unique brewing techniques or ingredients that Brothers Craft Brewing employs to create these distinct and memorable brews?
Well, kind of going back to different breweries having different business models, the one we've always tried to follow was kind of based on your bigger players in Harrisonburg, your Hardywoods and your bigger breweries that have a nice distribution footprint, but also have a great taproom experience. Other breweries might just do everything in-house. Jeff Moon, I know he's done a little bit of limited distribution now, and so is Sean Gatesman, but a lot of breweries rely solely on their tap room. A lot of breweries rely more on their distribution, and we tried to find a balanced model. Well, how do you get people into your space if they can get the beer elsewhere? And that's by, setting yourself up with flagship beers. You're making all year round. They're the backbone of your business, right? And then a seasonal calendar of 4 beers. We actually have 5. We split the fall season between Oktoberfest, or Oktoberfest style beer, Fest beer, and Blonde Betty or apple pie beer. Yeah, it's a great one. It's 7.6 Imperial Blonde Ale with fresh pressed apple juice from Bold Rock and then apple pie spices. It was our pivot when everybody started doing pumpkin beers and they weren't as marketable. It's like, well, what else can we do? Oh, what about apple pie? That's very fall. And it's done a very good job for us. And then, we have one-offs through the year, and all these things go out to distribution. Well, if you can get them out in the market, then why would you come here except to drink beer here? Well, that's where we do all our fun experimental things. We have a group called the Horizon Society. It's our bottle club where we do bigger, bolder brews. So these are your craft beer aficionados that want you to do big barrel-aged projects. That's where about 2015 we started getting into sour beers because those guys were looking for those types of styles. And the Horizon Society has really helped push us into doing things we might not have done elsewise because we had an audience to do it for. The thing with brewing is you're making everything all at once, right? It's kind of like baking. So, if you're going to bake a cake for a crowd, you need to bake enough cake for a crowd. But if you size up, you need enough crowd for the cake, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing we've always had to be very innovative about. If we're going to do a specialty beer, what's our target audience and how are we going to get it out there to the drinkers? And, through the Horizon Society and then the taproom experience, that's how we can draw people in here. You'll still see our flagships and the beer you know from us, but chances are when you come in here, you're going to have a lot of options of things you won't be able to get out at stores and restaurants, which makes it a lot more fun. You have a little something of everything. And right now, if you look at it, we have what you're drinking right now.
Yeah, let's talk about that as well. And ask about next.
Brand new beer we've just quietly released. We'll be promoting it more as it gets to be time. We're waiting kind of for August and Virginia Craft Beer Month to kind of really start talking this one up. But because of the hot weather and the fact that people like simple, easy drinking beers during the summer, you're drinking what's called Mount Crushmore, and it's a standard American lager. So think about your domestic lagers with a lot more flavor and personality at a 4.5%, so you can crush a bunch of them on a hot summer day after mowing. That's what that's for.
Okay.
And so that's one end of the spectrum of our 13 taps on right now. The other end of the spectrum is what we call Resolute 26.
Okay.
And Resolute is a beer that put us on the map, really. In our first couple of years of brewing, the community supported us very well, and we started getting a name through the state of Virginia. And part of that was because of the beer Resolute. It's a Russian imperial stout that's bourbon barrel aged. And especially in 2013-14, when we first started brewing it, that was kind of the big new thing. You think about Goose Island and, their Bourbon County series. And that's one of the most recognizable beers in craft beer because of that kind of changed things when they started doing that, really started this whole trend of bourbon barrel aging stouts and opened up this whole new way to brew beer. When we did it in 13 for the first time, we just quietly released it in the taproom, and it took to a point. By 2015, we had to have a release day that we now expect at least 600 to 800 people to come to on a Saturday in November and hang out outside drinking beer. That's 13.5%. Back in the day, when there was less breweries across the state, and especially here locally, we would have so many more people coming in because there weren't all of the options. Now, if you want that style of beer, that time of beer, red beer down in Stanton, they have Moriarty. Hardywood has their gingerbread stout and those types of things. You can find that style. But back when we first started brewing it, not many people did it. So our release day was massive. And in 2015, we said, you know what? We'd started doing different things with it, adding different flavors, right? Because you have a big chocolatey stout that has the booziness of bourbon, but is smooth and easy drinking for 13.5. What can we add to it? And we decided to do toasted coconut. And it blew up to the point that it became the 26th best beer in the world for that year.
That's incredible.
The number one beer for the United States when it first blew up, and then stayed in the top 10 that entire year, and still has a perfect rating on a Beer Advocate.
Yeah.
So that one really turned people's eyes. So what we did this past year is everybody's been pining for us to bring that beer back, that specific version of Resolute.
Particular one.
Yep. And so we finally went back through and figured out exactly how to get that flavor again. And released it this past year as Resolute 26, a nod to it being the 26th best beer in the world back in 2015 there. And that's on right now as well. So, you can come get a basic American lager, or you can get a bourbon barrel-aged beer on toasted coconut at 13.5%. And we have a lot of things in between some sours, IPAs, double IPAs, Mexican lagers. That's kind of our bag. And that's what I've always appreciated about our business and that style of brewery model, because it's like being a kid in a candy shop. I like to try different things.
Yeah.
For other people, if they're just liking IPAs, they might gravitate to places that are more IPA heavy. When I want a good IPA and I'm not drinking here, I'm going down to Basic City. That's what they're known for, right? So that's just the fun thing about the industry.
Yeah. Now this coconut beer is very curious to me. I obviously haven't had it. Do you taste the coconut?
Oh yeah. Think about a Mounds.
Yeah.
You got that dark chocolate, that coconut.
Yes.
That's kind of the flavor profile you're getting off of that beer.
That is very unique. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
And back to the nature of your question, the innovation, that's one thing that the brothers have always been very good at. The youngest brother, Tyler, he's in charge of production, so he's overseeing all the recipes and things through the different brewers we've had. He also brews the beer. And that's kind of our approach, is thinking of brewing as a culinary art, especially when it comes to Resolute, because back, in 14 and 15, when we first started adding variants to Resolute to add other options, it was kind of a new thing. And now you come to Resolute Day and you have the regular Resolute, you have 2 brand new variants that we've never done before. You have 2 throwback variants that people are pining for,
right?
That we've done previously, so we'll bring them back. you have two double barrels, meaning all Resolute goes into bourbon barrels, but the two double barrel variants then go into a second alcohol barrel. So maybe a rum barrel or a red wine barrel or something like that. And now Resolute 26. So you're walking into Resolute Day with 8 different Resolute options. And to figure all that out, especially with the 2 new and the 2 throwback, we go to culinary thinking. One of my favorite Resolute variants that we have ever done was German chocolate cake Resolute. It's my favorite style of cake. Yeah. And how these guys do it is, are we like crumbling up a German chocolate cake and throwing it in the beer? Absolutely not. We're thinking through what flavors create that flavor profile on your palate. Okay. And what do we add to the beer to get it there? Resolute's already very chocolatey anyway, so you got that piece of the German chocolate cake. But then you start thinking about the other flavors and what can we add to the beer to get it there to mimic that experience? We did the same thing a couple of years ago with carrot cake Resolute, and it blew my mind that they were able to figure that out. Did we use carrots? No. But do you really taste carrots in carrot cake? No. So you start thinking more in that culinary chef mindset. And so that's kind of some of the fun things that our production team's doing. Always kind of looking at it. What are the popular styles right now that people want? Obviously, hazies have been the big rage, but that whole style of beer has changed a whole lot. Now the New England style of hazy IPA is way different than the current popular hazies that aren't just juice bombs.
Right.
You still get a little bitterness in them. They still drink like that IPA, but are very citrusy, you know. We do all that stuff, but then it's like, what other fun stuff can we do? And as being taproom manager, I don't get to do anything in the production area. I can add input to beers that they're brewing, but I trust them to that. But they also then trust myself and one of my bartenders who's I've been working to build up on doing this as well. And he's taken kind of the program over. We do infusions out here to keep things fun. So on a couple Fridays a month, we'll take one of our beers on tap and we'll infuse it with locally sourced products. And kind of one of the cool things that we did last 2 years was we partnered with the Harrisburg Farmers Market because we have a beer called Farmers Market that comes out. It was coming out in August. It was a sour beer, Berliner Weiss on red raspberries. Yeah. So we did this whole promotion with the Farmers Market the last 2 years where starting in the spring, I would go down there on Tuesdays and Saturdays and look for different things I could source and put in our beers in different infusions.
That's fun.
And then we would highlight them in our partnership with the Farmers Market when it released on that Friday. And it's only 5 gallons, so it goes very quickly. It was a great way to get people to think about eating and drinking locally. Yeah. By coming and drinking craft beer here locally, going down to the farmers market, getting your produce locally, and it was a really cool couple of years that we did that. It made it very challenging in a fun way at times because there would be Saturdays I would go down there and I'm like, I don't see a single thing because of seasonality. I could put in a beer, so now I really got to stretch my brain about it. And one of the fun things was Jerry's Berries that's down there regularly. He has this Sonora juice. It's this berry juice that I used one time in the Great Outdoors or Pale Ale, and it just did really well. So, it made me really think outside of the box and use that culinary mind. Okay, if this tastes like this, if I put it to beer, it would taste like this. Is that something that people are looking for?
Right.
That's pretty amazing. So these beers are very seasonal at times.
Yes. If you see Infusion Friday or Infusion on our beer boards, that means we're taking a finished beer and we're taking products that we just sourced and putting a new spin on that beer. So, for example, on Saturday, we have our annual Christmas in July that will benefit the United Way, and they're now what's called Tools for School collection drive, no longer Stuff the Bus. And so we wanted a bunch of Christmas beers. The production is creating 4 sour beers for the hot, summertime July weather that are Christmassy. And so we were thinking about different things we could do on the darker side of things. So we took one of our decadent stouts and we've added cinnamon, clove, cranberry, and a few other cranberry, nutmeg, and everything nice about Christmas. And put it onto a 7.8% stout we're calling Winter Spiced. First time we did this beer, just an infusion we threw together for Saturday to give you that experience. To go along with your Christmas in July sours. And then, Yuletide is a big bourbon barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout at 14.1%. That's either gingerbread or peppermint bark, And that kind of back to the nature of your question. That's the fun thing about the business and what I love about us is we go that route with our brewing. A lot of people like to stay to standard. You even think about Weeping Radish down in North Carolina. That's a very old craft brewery. They're the first in North Carolina. And they actually had to get a lot of laws changed so they could open. And the gentleman that opened it, they recently just sold because that gentleman's gotten older in age and was ready to move on, was from Germany, and he kept strict German purity laws, meaning water, yeast, grain. That's it. You got your natural products, but German purity laws, you go to Germany, it's very lager based because you're restricted on what you can use. You have those people that stay more traditional towards style and whatever, and that's great. Mm-hmm. You have people that go crazy with it. The Vale in Richmond is one of those that really got their name early on by some of the crazy things they were doing. And, we've always tried to hit that middle of the road, a little something for everybody. So if you want something big, bold, and crazy, we got it. You want a standard lager, we got that too.
Yeah, you got all your bases covered. I see you have a little Christmas tree here with some presents for your Christmas in July events.
Yep.
So we even have some festiness for when people come in
to
experience your beers.
We got our donation box for the United Ways Tools for School, and we'll be collecting all month long to help underprivileged Rockingham County and Harrisonburg City students have the tools they need for school while trying to help end the stigma of poverty. That's kind of a new spin they're putting on it this year that I really appreciate as a former educator of 8 years and working with a lot of underprivileged kids, is that, when you went to school the first day with nothing and the teacher's having to hand you everything, that sets you off on the wrong foot. So that's where Stuff the Bus has shifted into tools for school. Mm-hmm. And this year with their collection, they'll actually have a fair out at the Valley Mall where kids can come shop for their tools for school so they can walk into school like their peers with the things they need. And start them out on the right foot. So really cool pivot on United Ways Park from a very established brand of Stuff the Bus to a nice new brand of tools for school to even take that program and make it even better.
I think that's great. And then you're introducing people that are repeat customers as well as new beer enthusiasts to all these creative beers and distinct memorable brews that you have. And I love how you experiment with the distinct and memorable yumminess, because our sponsor, Pre-Popsterous, Shenandoah Valley's only award-winning popcorn, loves to do that too. And I know that you've tried it before, so what's your favorite flavor, Josh? Do you have one?
I've had many of Tisha and Preposterous's flavors of popcorn. They're all very delicious. We partnered with them for a period of time and had their product here and was able to do some pairings for different events. Their maple popcorn is great with their Daylight Cravings, which is a maple bacon breakfast stout. But if I was to get any of their bags, their cheddar ranch has always just hit me just right. Mm-hmm. And what we're eating right now, this Buffalo Ranch cheddar, is very delicious too. It goes really well with an IPA.
It's absolutely delicious, Laughers. So good. Did you know that their popcorn is made from kernels grown right here in the Shenandoah Valley and that their factory is 100% nut free?
I did. Not only because we've worked with them and they were great partners for a while, and they're locally grown and nice local company here. So.
It's so good. They're nuts. There are no nuts anywhere in their factory or production process, Blackers. And it's also great. They're popcorn for any gifting occasion. Perfect for birthdays, anniversaries, literally anything that comes up. And you know what? It's that kind of perfect gift that doesn't require you to know anyone's shirt, shoe, or pant size.
What a great gift.
Right?
The gift of food is always a great gift. And it pairs very well with craft beer.
Exactly, it does. So, Laughers, order yours today using promo code LAUGH15 to get a 15% discount. Just visit prepopsterous.com. That's prepopsterous.com. And you can see all of their sweet and savory flavors. Order what you like and enjoy. Yum. So fun. I'm still munching on it.
Yeah, don't blame it.
One of my favorite parts of doing this podcast is eating their popcorn. Harrisonburg, Virginia, Josh, has a vibrant craft beer scene. You were talking about it earlier. And you mentioned some things about how you're set apart from them. So can you expand on that a little bit more and talk about how you stay connected with the local community?
Sure thing. And the interesting thing about us is being the first craft brewery in there. That means we're the oldest. That doesn't necessarily mean we're the most popular. That's always the challenge that we're looking at, because when people come into your industry, obviously they're the shiny new thing. Everybody wants to try it. And so to stay on top of that, you constantly have to be evolving and really perfecting what you do. When we were a couple years in, that's when Tim Brady, the former owner of Pale Fire, and Jamie Long, who was his former business partner back when they first opened, started opening up their place. And we were right there, helping them out with advice. Same thing with Sean Gatesman and, Jeff Moon even. We've helped the other people in this area because that's what we do as a business. And we also recognize the challenge that in helping them, obviously they're going to succeed. And we want them to make their money and to succeed as well. But we know that people are going to flock to there. So how do we combat that? And the one thing that we've always had a focus on in a good way, but it's always been a challenge, is we're not technically downtown. We're just slightly north of downtown. And we know the Harrisonburg community loves to come downtown and walk around downtown and hit up all the restaurants and bars. And heck, to go from the West Water Street parking deck to here would be like walking the length of the Valley Mall. But because of the way downtown's set up, we're not walkable for people.
Yes.
Fortunately, we have a nice big parking lot.
Yes.
So if you're willing to come park and hang out, then you can go downtown. It's great. But so how do we combat that? And our focus has always been providing different experiences, being very open, warm, and welcoming to everybody that comes here, making you feel like family as soon as you walk in. So that experience in of itself helps bring people back, but also really focused on offering people a lot of different reasons to come. It's one of the favorite parts of my job is event management, because from March through November every year, we have so many events every single month. Everything from, our Cask For A Cause fundraiser, that's the third Friday of every month. The fourth Friday of every month from March through September, we partner with Virginia Momentum and do Run, Sweat, and Beers, a very casual way to get 1, 3, or 5 miles done, walking, running, whatever, and then having some beers and hanging out. To bigger events like Resolute Day, that release, bringing all those people in. May Music Festival, where we're concentrating on local musicians that are more in the alternative range and having vendors out here. Our Great Outdoors Music Festival coming up here in September is more of the Americana, bluegrass, country style of music. We're really excited that local band Hackens Boys is going to have one of their only, if not their only, local performance this year. And the last Saturday of August, out in our back lot, we're going to turn that into a festival space for them. And it's a big beer release that we're doing a collaboration with them.
That's great.
So we'll release their beer that day. And we got Elijah Brian Smith and some other bands playing with that. So that's a great event. So, being more than just beer. Obviously, our focus is beer, and our focus is creating the best beer that we can and a variety of beer that will appeal to the masses, both here locally, but also across the state, because we're in every major market in Virginia and continue to want to grow. But making that taproom experience more than just coming in and having a good time over a beer, but getting to do things like open mic comedy.
Yeah.
I created a concert series, about 2017, that's really grown, called By the Fire Fridays. We do it spring and fall, where I have a singer-songwriter out in the alleyway. I have a fire pit going. We have a food truck, and we just enjoy a night outside with locally crafted food, music, and beer. Trying to really just hit all those check marks. Fundraisers to activities to family-friendly events to beer-centric events, and really giving people a reason to choose us as a part of their evening. Obviously, we don't need to be your only stop. We love the other breweries in the area. We support them. We support the Shadow Valley Beer Works Trail, which is, 18 breweries strong, Harrisonburg, all the way down south to Lexington. Yeah. If we can just be one of your stops in that, we're happy. And if we can give you a different experience that you might not be getting somewhere else, even better, because that might be a reason to come back to us, if you have a choice between us and somewhere else. Well, hey, they got this going on. Let's go do this, because that's a lot of fun. And so that kind of goes back to my entertainment background with theater and music industry, being able to book bands, run sound, create those entertainment experiences outside of our normal day-to-day.
So you work with people to come up with beer collaborations and releases?
Or just events in general. Our Sunday Bluegrass jams that we do, that simply came to me. through Liza Bantz, who is the leader and organizer. She doesn't lead every week, but she approached us and said, hey, I'd like to do a bluegrass jam with you. Let's talk about it and see what this looks like. Or what it looks like now is every Sunday. This Sunday, we're taking a break for it to have the Sunday Buffet, a little something different. A musician friend of ours who's a long-time person that we've been working with will be coming out and with his buddy playing Jimmy Buffett tunes on Sunday outside. We'll have that experience. But every other Sunday up through when football season starts, we take Sundays off during the NFL season. We have live bluegrass in here from 5 to 7. And everybody and anybody that's a string player and old-timer bluegrass is welcome to join the jam. Okay. Or you're just welcome to come in and enjoy the music. And the acoustics in here during that are amazing. So, yeah, live music 2 hours every Sunday and bluegrass. And who doesn't at least enjoy it to some extent, bluegrass? It's such a great style of music.
Oh, yeah. And so just rooted in our area big time.
So, yeah, just being able to really connect with the community and different levels of the community. You have musicians, you have artists, you have, creators, you have all these different ways of life. One of the cool things about being a post-educator in my story of being an educator and making this my place, one of the reasons I made this my place was not only because of the welcoming family feel to it, but more importantly, it was a place I felt like I could come as an elementary school teacher and not be judged for having a beer. I wasn't sitting at a bar.
Yeah,
I was supporting a local business in a tap room. And we do have so many educators and now retired educators that come in here. And the cooler connection to that is if you look at our hierarchy, the brothers, their mother, affectionately known as Mama Schiff, Linda, just retired from the school system. She was an elementary school teacher for many years.
Okay.
2 of the brothers' wives are in education.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm a former educator. My wife is a former educator, and we have other educational connections to our staff as well. One of our bartenders, his mom's an educator. So teaching is a large part of who we innately are as a business, and it does definitely then come into how we are to the consumer. When you walk in here, we're going to be very friendly and welcoming and open to you. We're ready to teach you about craft beer. If that's what you're looking for, we're ready to hand you a beer and let you go do your thing. If you just want a quiet space, if you want to talk craft beer, you just want to talk live, we're willing to do that too. The caring, nurturing aspect about educators is a huge part of our taproom experience because it kind of goes back to that idea of the Cheers bar and the show Cheers.
Yeah.
You want to be able to go where everyone knows your name.
Yes.
And you feel like family and you can step away from life. And that's kind of our big goal every single day when we're open is to give everybody that experience.
I love it. I feel it when I come in here all the time. And I enjoy seeing the collaborations that you make in the local community. And I've been to a few of these events, Cask For A Cause. That's CASK, which is the brew barrel, right?
So what a cask is, it's a metal vessel. And before the technology in brewing that we have today to do it, once you brewed your beer, you let it cool in open air, then you put it in the metal vessel, a cask.
Okay.
And they're different sizes. So what we used to use is a pen, which is a 5-gallon vessel. And you put your beer in there and you put your yeast in there and you plug it up and you let it set and do its thing naturally. So back before the brewing industry got to this technology, that's where you see that metal vessel out on the bar. They tap it by putting a faucet into it, and it pours, and it's self-carbonated. It's a certain way. So back when we first started doing Cask For A Cause, and it goes all the way back to when we first opened up, Jason, the middle brother, who kind of oversees all sales, both production and taproom, so he's my direct superior, wanted to make sure we had a monthly event that, really benefited nonprofits. We wanted to be able to give back to the community as much as they gave to us because they're giving to us to be able to come brew beer and sell beer every day. So let's make sure we give back to the community. So every month, 12 months a year, we partner with a local nonprofit. We build out a cask of beer or 5 gallons of a beer and sell it at $5 a pint with all the proceeds from the sale going directly to the organization. So the goal every third Friday of the month is to sell 40 pints from that specialty beer to raise $200 for that organization. We have a silent auction that for a framed event poster with the winning bid going there, and then the organization can do any other fundraising. A great way for them to get in front of our audience and promote themselves. And, it's a great outreach of many that we do every year.
Yes, I've been to a few of them. I was at the one most recently. What for me was the Sadie Rose Foundation.
Oh yes, that was a great one. Yeah,
yeah, I really
great
enjoyed
organization
that.
there.
And I think you, if I remember right from talking to my friend there, Vonda K. Driver, she's the executive director, the nonprofit gets a kind of a say in what the flavor is, right?
That's the really cool part of it.
Okay.
When, I work with organizations planning these, the first step is, let me go ahead and build out the event and get everything going. But then I connect them with Jason, and Jason works on the beer infusion. So they get to pick which beer we use. They get to have a say in what we're infusing it with. And a lot of times we try to direct that in such a way that it will connect with their organization. So, for example, with Sadie Rose, since the rose is a big part of their imagery due to their story, we used rose petal.
Yes.
Tomorrow when we do it with the United Way, because of the Tools for School drive, green apple connecting with teachers is going to be in the infusion, and they also get to name the beer if they would like. So tomorrow's beer will be called Teacher's Aid. To go along with Tools for School and the green apple, and to really connect things really well. And that makes it even more fun to have creative spins on the beers that connect to the organization, more memorable for the people, because our goal is on Fridays when we do this for the organization to be able to get the word out about all the good work they're doing and how to continue to support them. So you create that experience that sticks in people's mind. Oh yeah, I had that green apple beer. Oh yeah, because that was the United Way beer. Oh, I should see what they're doing. How can I help right now? That's the idea.
I love it. And for those laughers out there and they've never heard about the Sadie Rose Foundation, because I think people are pretty familiar with the United Way for the most part. But Sadie Rose is a bit smaller nonprofit, and it was started by a mother who lost her baby, and she realized that what was lacking was support and resources for those who were grieving, and that her little baby was named Sadie Rose, ergo it's called the Sadie Rose Foundation. And the organization just turned 16 years old. And Sadie Rose, so I'm close. And Sadie Rose would have been 16 this summer. So that's pretty cool that you guys do those kinds of things.
And that's our goal with Cask For A Cause. Everybody from a big organization like United Way or Meals on Wheels, which we work with annually, to their smaller local organizations, especially one that is near and dear to me is every December. We do Cask For A Cause with Mercy House. And we also kick off the Christmas season on Black Friday with what we call the Brothers Giving Tree, where we have the Christmas tree with paper ornaments representing every man, woman, and child currently at Mercy House at that moment in their wish list. And we have a gift drive to make sure those folks all get some gifts for Christmas. So those are some of the fun things that, going back to the nature of your question here, what kind of sets us apart. And it's not that other places aren't doing these things. Everybody's doing good work here. So I don't want to belittle other people's efforts, but it's such a focus of ours and something we really do take pride in.
Yeah, I love that. You have a lot of beer enthusiasts that come into this tap room, and I'm one of those when I'm not drinking wine. What has been one of the most rewarding interactions for you or experiences that you've had with a customer at Brothers Craft Brewing that you can share with us?
My favorite answer to that, and I got to this out would be very quick because it just happened yesterday, but my favorite was, so when I applied for this job, at that point, working things out through Harrisonburg City Schools and the transitional period, I wasn't at liberty to say much publicly. And so when I applied for this job, I obviously talked through it with Harrisonburg City Schools to make sure, we were all on the same page. Okay, yeah, maybe in August I'm going to apply for this job. It's not because I can't work, but, it's all the things, right? Want to make sure, smooth transition. But I couldn't say anything about having offered the job and accepted it until I finished my time out with the schools, right? And so I was here at Daylight Day, which is on Daylight Savings. It's our annual release of Daylight Cravings, our maple bacon breakfast stout that I mentioned earlier that pairs well with preposterous maple popcorn. And a buddy of mine who was also in the schools, his name is Alan, we're standing there, we're having some beers. And when I first got here that morning, Jason said, this is the last event you will get to come to as a customer. So it was already kind of on my mind. And I'm standing there with Alan, and we're having some beers and tasting that year's daylight cravings and the variants and having a good old time. He's like, "Yeah, did you hear they're up for a new taproom manager, man? Yeah, that job seems great. I still know. I don't know if I could take the leap of faith and leave education for something, man. Whoever gets that job is gonna be a lucky guy. That seems like a really cool job." And I'm there just holding my tongue, like, "Yeah, I wonder who that will be."
Who's that lucky guy?
But it was that moment, that last moment, cleared my head that I was just a consumer. I was no longer an employee. That even though I've always felt a part of this place, then I was really becoming a part of this place. And I had his enthusiasm because I knew what I was getting myself into. So that's my fun story. And the long one. The short one just came yesterday, and it's one of our regulars. And he became our regular within the last year. And he looks at me, he's like, "Great Outdoors is the best beer that anyone has brewed ever in craft beer." Like, that's his beer. So anytime a customer feels that passionately about anything that we're creating, it's always that ultimate compliment.
I love that so much. There's such a rise of craft breweries nationwide now, and there's often a focus on educating consumers about beer styles and flavors, which you said that's what you're willing to do if they want to learn more about it.
Sure thing.
Leave them alone. How does Brothers Craft Brewing engage with its customers to help them explore that practically and appreciate the diversity of craft beer?
Absolutely. When people walk in, it's something that we take pride in. It's something that we train our people on. And I'm looking for, as far as a bartender's personality, is when people walking in the door, big, warm welcome, make people feel at home. So they aren't anxious about asking questions, especially those that are new into craft beer. We get a lot of tourism, both through Mastodon and then being right off 81. You have a lot of people in different, spots in their beer journey. And last thing you want to do is come across as pretentious or put them, not wanting to ask. So making them comfortable as soon as they walk in. "Hi, welcome. How can I help you? What are you looking for? Can I help you find the beer?" And getting them to feel comfortable and willing to ask questions. So if they are a big craft beer guy and want to know, well, exactly how is this brewed, having an educated staff to be able to talk about that. If it's someone that has no idea, the guy that the other day came in, and he's probably in his mid-50s and sat down, I was like, "I like Pabst Blue Ribbon. What do you got for me?" "Here, try the Cerveza Hermanos. It's a Mexican lager." And instead of just leaving it at that, which you would see at a lot of places, explaining just a touch to draw his interest. And if you ask more questions, then we can go into educational piece. And if not, then, he's had the opportunity to take that conversation further and reading the room and reading people where they're at. You'll have people curious that you give them that opportunity, and you'll find yourself having to, really manage continuing to tend the bar and talk to other people because they get so into it, and that's a skill in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to continue a conversation while stepping away. You'll have the other people like, "Okay, cool, thanks," and they'll wander off and do their thing. You're good with that. So it's really being consumer focused. What is the consumer looking for in their experience when they walk in? How do you give them the opportunity to have that? And then how do you facilitate that experience so when they walk away, they're like, "I had a great time here. I'd love to come back." That's paramount to us.
Then do you give your new people some sort of onboarding training then so that they can get familiarized with newer brews?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And a lot of it comes through experience itself. Like when I train new bartenders, I typically take a month to train them. But it's a very fluid situation where I'm feeling them out and their progression through it. And a lot of it goes back to my teacher background of modeling, doing a lot of modeling on the forefront those first couple shifts, to then the gradual release, kind of like a student-teacher situation, constantly talking about the beer. Virginia ABC law allows us to, on the clock, sample beer for quality control reasons. So using that ability that, at the beginning of the shift, okay, we're just going to have a splash sample of these two beers. Let's talk about them as people. Part of my interviews for bartenders is let's talk beer, because that's the big thing. And I don't care how much you know, but are you willing to learn? Are you excited about it? Are you going to retain it? And have that enthusiasm in front of the employee. That's what I'm looking for in that part of the interview. And that's kind of how we go about it. Like, I could not write the training manual for the part-time bartender position because we have so many beers coming out, new beers coming out every year. I always say we're always training because there are always new things to learn. Always better ways to do things as we change and evolve. but we're all in this for the enjoyment of craft beer. So that's the key piece, is being able to comfortably talk about it in front of people.
That's really amazing how your educational background is really playing a positive impact on your role as a taproom manager here, empowering your own bartenders. Really.
Absolutely.
I love that. Brewing is a dynamic field with new trends emerging frequently. How does Brothers Craft Brewing stay ahead of the curve and continually innovate to keep its beer offerings fresh and exciting?
Core of this is research, keeping our finger on the pulse in the market, using things like the Brewers Association and their website and trade magazines to keep up, but also being in the field. The great thing about having distribution throughout the entire state of Virginia is having a sales team that's out there pounding the pavement, good connections with our distributors to see what's selling, what's not, good connections with restaurants and what are people looking for, and knowing what is comfortable for us and keeping within our business model while still providing the consumer with what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. We've never done a traditional hazy New England IPA because that's not our style of brewing. But when hazy IPA is kind of shifted into more of a less bitter IPA that has a lot of citrus notes, we can do that. So keeping on that finger on the pulse, and even going as far as once a month sitting down, the sales team, the brothers, myself, a few other people sit down and do a quick beer share of just splash samples of different beers on the market and talking through them. Why is this a popular beer in the market? What are they doing? What is something that we might do that's not going to be the exact same, but we might do that would interest that type of drinker, and constantly thinking about the consumer. It's great to brew beer for yourself, but if you're selling it to other people, they got to like it too. So you got to meet somewhere in the middle.
Or they're not going to come back. We don't want that.
Yep.
Well, looking to the future, what exciting developments or projects can we expect from Brothers Craft, and how do you envision the brewery's role in the evolving craft beer landscape?
Craft beer landscape is really complex right now, coming out of the pandemic, especially now a couple years out, and the economic aspect of the times has made it a challenging thing. Here in the state of Virginia, we see some chips falling. And it's kind of sad to see.
When you mean chips falling, just to back up, what do you mean by that?
Champion Brewing, who is over 10 years old from Charlottesville, just recently announced their closure.
Wow. Okay. So you mean other breweries that have kind of been flagships?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
O'Connor out of Norfolk is selling their taproom and brewing space, and we contract brewing and only putting their beer out in distribution, much in the same model as Skipping Rocks had to do. So it's a challenging area, but we're really excited about the future. We got some irons in the fire that I'm not at liberty to talk about yet, but some exciting things coming for 2024, so stay tuned on that. But to get us through the rest of the year, some things we're really excited about is extending our partnership with JMU. We already have Proud and True Duke's Lager that we released a couple of years ago that you can drink at every JMU football game and men's basketball game, and we have it here at the Taproom. So that's been a great partnership with JMU and being the first or the second officially licensed beer in the state via the NCAA. And then last year we took it a step further with J. Maddie, the first officially licensed by the NCAA hard seltzer in the nation. Okay. And we have your two flavors of J. Maddie. You got your purple and your gold. Your gold's pineapple. Your purple's raspberry lime. And you got 6 in every 12-pack. So how do we take the next step this year? We're finalizing an IPA. It's going to be more up towards a hazy style. Easy drinker IPA, a lower ABV one. That's going to be a Duke's IPA that we're just finalizing the graphics package with the university and hope to have out next month, just in time for students to come back. And so that's a real cool thing we're excited about, getting us into the fall, August with students coming back. We have the Proud True Pep Rally to get everybody excited, both current students and alumni. And then we have watch parties with a big projector screen on Football Saturdays for JMU. That's always fun. A lot of fun. And then, all of our fall programming, our Oktoberfest, our fall coffee fest, Resolute Day, and all the fun of that. We have a very, very full event calendar every fall that's very exciting. And then, like I said, some things I can't talk about that are very exciting that will be coming up here in 2024. So that will definitely kind of help our standing in the craft beer landscape here locally. We feel very well established. People know us, and we're constantly also trying to improve ourselves. Just like any culinary artist, you never quite satisfied, right? You might have that recipe honed in right where you want to be. It can always be better. And that's kind of the way we've always been with our beer. We have a good product. We're happy to be a part of this scene and, the landscape in Virginia. And we always want to constantly do a little bit better. So we got some things coming up in 2024 that will help that.
Wow. We might have to come back when we can announce that.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll let you know.
Let's keep that one in the back burner there, Josh.
Absolutely.
Well, as we wrap up here, how can the Laughers best follow Brothers Craft Brewing on social media or otherwise?
We have a very strong social media presence. First and foremost, we have a brand new website we rolled out over the last year on Squarespace, brotherscraftbrewing.com, that will connect you then with our online store on Shopify, where we do sell not only our merch, but select beers of ours, and we are able to ship through the entire state of Virginia. So for laughers that aren't here in Harrisonburg and can't make it to the Taproom, you can find a lot of our products there on our website, and we'll ship them directly to you. Don't blame us for the UPS rates. UPS, we do have a partnership with them where we get reduced rates, but shipping is a little expensive. I'll say that. But it is a way that if you can't get the beer in your area, or it's a specialty taproom release that doesn't go out to distro, we can still get it to you. We're also very active on Facebook and Instagram. Those two platforms we're posting at least once, if not multiple times a day through posts and stories. And on Facebook, our event page is pretty caught up on things we have coming up within at least the next month, if not further out. We have so many things coming up that it's not all up for the rest of 2023, but a lot of our big events are up, and we continuously update that.
Great. And Laughers will be sure to put all that information for you in the show notes as well, along with that promo code LAUGH15, so that you can get your 15% discount when you order from prepopsterous.com today. And thank you, Josh, for joining us, sharing your journey, insights, knowledge of the craft beer industry, and chatting with us on all things Brothers Craft Brewing. I've really enjoyed our time together today, and I can't wait for my next visit to Brothers Craft, which actually happens to be tonight for the open mic. Got some new jokes we're going to try out, both me and my husband, so we're really looking forward to it.
That's great. Always look forward to you and your husband's sets, along with all the comedians. So look forward to laughing with you tonight after having a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time today and for including us in this podcast. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And Laughers, be sure to visit their website at brotherscraftbrewing.com. That's brotherscraftbrewing.com. And check out all their beers, events, and more. Or, better yet, visit them in person at 800 North Main Street in Harrisonburg. That's 800 North Main Street in Harrisonburg. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show, or let us bring one to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and until next time, cheers.